schools and other buildings we have. But we have to start educating the people first. And really it comes down to when we give the education to you folks are either going to vote for it or you're not. But we have to give you the amount of cost that it's going to take to upgrade the jail or build a new jail, or is there other options out there? There may be other options out there that we can utilize. You know, transporting prisoners to other jails is going to be costly. It's not a free service. It's going to be costly to both the city and the county. So I think we have to look at first finding out what the exact problems are, how much it's going to cost to fix those problems. You know, we just had $8 million in ARPA funds that we could have used some of those funds for fixing some of these problems in the jail, but we didn't. So that's a lost amount of revenue right now that we can't go back and utilize, at least not to my knowledge. So what I say is when I get elected, I'm going to start figuring out the numbers, I'm going to start figuring out the costs, and I'm going to start educating you, the community, and the citizens of Lake County so that we can figure out, because really, it's my job to educate, it's your job to decide yes or no, this is something we need, this is something where we need to go, but there will be a cost on whichever direction we go with that.
All right, thank you. Chris?
Okay, I started with Lake County in 2008. The jail and the office itself, the year before, had come under attack. One of the things that I really disliked about working for the county or even coming to the sheriff's office when I was a state trooper was the fact that it's an unsecured location. Getting out of your car after a tough arrest and not knowing whether or not there's going to be a family member there to greet you can be a little bit unnerving. However, that doesn't play to the problem. The problem hasn't changed since 2008. Under then Sheriff Wayne Roush in 2010, I actually looked at a set of blueprints that he had drawn up and a price tag. But he was told no. Now, why was he told no? Well, I believe he was told no because he wasn't giving the communities the support he needed. In talking with every city council, they all agreed, yes, we need a new jail. Yes, we need a new office. And yes, we need more service. And yes, we want more from you. Okay? And that's where it starts. It starts with that conversation as well as that additional service, that additional effort to make sure that you're educating the public, not just on the needs of the sheriff's office, but what the sheriff's office is there for. Being available for them, being available for the schools, being available for the city councils, being available for the school boards. Okay? And under my supervision, that's exactly what would happen. Okay? There are a lot of ways to enhance a schedule in order to work in the time as well as patrol time for people to spend creating relationship. Within those relationships, you start educating people, and suddenly people want to help you because they actually have a vested interest in what you do. Does that solve the problem? No. That price tag in 2010 was approximately between 15 and 20 million. That's almost 20 years ago. That's going to be 6 times that now. Okay, so you're probably looking at close to $120 million for a facility. Okay, because the jail is not cheap. Thanks.
All right, thank you. Richie? 2 minutes.
Can't do it in 2 minutes. The jail is definitely a hot topic right now. We had an inspection and they called things at the inspection that they hadn't called before. I've always passed jail standards. There's a thing called jail standards. So I've always passed these jail standards. We have somebody who comes in and they look our jail over and they go, okay, yep, this is fine, and we pass. I have certificates to show that we pass. But we have somebody new that came in and said, hey, I don't know why your doors haven't been checked before on this checklist, or your electrical is way worse, so and your fire is way worse. So what started this was we had some issues with the fire suppression, and it's way outdated, and it is going to cost about $400,000 to fix. So once we started opening up this can of worms, or whatever you want to call it, it ended up just being a thing that's like, okay, so now we're going to meetings and stuff with the county commissioners, and the county commissioners are really responsible for what we're going to do next. Obviously, I get to put in my 2 cents worth and everything, and we get together and come up with a good game plan that's going to work for all of us. I'm going to do it as least inexpensive as I can, because right now, I mean, tax dollars are important to me, and how we spend them is important to me. And so, and just so nobody gets too excited, it doesn't cost more money to house somebody in, like if I start taking 10 or 15 or 20 people down to Lewiston because they have a new jail facility, it doesn't cost more money. It costs a lot of money to operate a jail. And I'd be happy to go over that budget with anybody if they want to come by my office or come back there and talk to me about it. But I can tell you what it costs to operate a jail, what we would save by closing the jail if we have to, which we don't know yet, or by just transporting people down south to that jail. And if they couldn't take that person, we'd probably have to transport to Kootenai County because they have a big new jail too. So there's some things we're in the mud right now, and we're going to try to figure out together as a team and what's best for the people of Latah County and the inmates. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Okay, we're getting pressed for time, but I think this is another important one. And this is for the county commissioner candidates. Given the local wildfires within the county this year, how can we better prepare, address, and respond in the future? And we'll start with you, Tony.
Well, a lot of that, if it's public lands, the people that, the state or the people that own the public lands will have to take care of it, of course. If it's private ground, I'd highly recommend clearing any underbrush, taking care of your property properly so tree place doesn't catch on fire and knock some trees down if they're close to your homes. But you're responsible for your own property. It's not a county problem. Public lands, federal government or state government will take care of public lands. If it's been at a potlatch ground, they'll take care of their ground. But as far as county taking care of you, folks, you're on your own. You just got to buck up and clean off your property and make it fire safe.
Go ahead, Mark.
Okay, thank you. So way back a number of years ago, I actually had a class in fire ecology. And one thing I do remember is there's three things it takes to make a fire: oxygen, a heat source, and fuel. And really, fuel is the only thing we can really manage. And I would really, I know that they have the county already has a fire plan. I would like to see workshops or information go out to the county on how people can better protect themselves in managing the fuel that's around their place. Because, you know, like the Malden fire here a few years ago, that fire rolled into town and some of those houses were on fire before the flames ever got there because of the heat. So there's a lot of things that we can do in information and planning that I think is critical. The other thing, I spoke with a woman that's doing a PhD at Idaho here at Farmers Market a few weeks ago, and she's working on trying to develop a network or promoting prescribed burns. So if people, landowners, could work together, working with IDL, working with the local firefighter people, to develop ways to help control or to do prescribed burns. The risk is the thing getting away, and then you've got that. But the more education and the more work that people do, I think, could really lead to some benefits. And I guess I'll leave it at that. But I think we need more. We need to get information out, and we need to help people. If you've got brush underneath a ponderosa pine tree, that's going to carry that fire up, and it's going to carry it horizontally across the landscape, and that's not good. So anyway, that's me.
John?
Yeah, I've been a volunteer fireman on the Troy Fire Department for 25 years, and I haven't seen a wildfire season like this last year. I spent probably 4 days down in the Gwynn fire. I was up here on the Wallen fire until 9, 10 o'clock on Friday night, helping IDL and all the other local agencies to try to protect houses the best we could. And I'll have to go back again to what these guys said. fuel. You got to make your dwelling as fireproof as you can. Try to get the underbrush. Try to keep the pine trees away from your house. And there's programs out there called Firewise. They talk to you about how to green your house or make it safer from fire. On the wildland side of it, you know, one of the best things I've seen, especially up here in the Walden fire, we had all the agency volunteer fire departments. So we're kind of Idaho Department of Land's quick attack. We're kind of a bunch of cowboys out there with the fire hose, but we put the wet stuff on the hot stuff. And we let those guys take care of the, come up with a plan on how to fight it. But the fuel thing is a big issue. And if we can be diligent and instead of planting a tree here, plant it farther away and try to remove some of that brush. Because I've been on some wildland fires and there was no way we're saving a house because it had too much brush around. It didn't matter how much water or how many trucks we had, we just couldn't do it. So then we've been around some that have been cleaned up really well, and a big fire runs through and the house stands there in the middle of a bunch of black. So that planning, and we're working with the Lake Tahoe Water and Soil Conservation District. They're doing a study, not a study, but a plan up here in Moscow Mountain right now for the next couple of years, and they're going to try to see what they can do with ladder fuels and getting some of the brush away from the road. So there's a concerted effort for us as commissioners to support that with support, not dollars, and they got a grant for it. So, but for me as a commissioner, being on the fire department for that many years, it's a big concern.
All right, thank you. Jason?
Wildfires are a concern. I deployed with our Lake Tahoe County CERT team, so that's that community emergency response team. We deployed with the Sheriff's Department on the Texas Ridge Fire, and we deployed with the Red Cross here at the Lake Tahoe County Fairgrounds for the Gwen Fire. It boils down to education. The CERT program that I'm the deputy program manager for, we actually do trainings and education on emergency preparedness, and some of that is with Firewise. We actually have them come in and do a workshop on how you can prepare your home for wildfire season. Underbrush is an issue. If you don't clear that underbrush and you don't have 30 feet from your house to the nearest trees, your house has a high potential for burning. So it boils down to education. Sign up for Everbridge. Everbridge is our countywide notification system. You're going to get those alerts that notify you when there's high winds, fires, evacuations. There's only 200 members signed up for Everbridge for Lake Tahoe County. That's your money that was spent for that communication system, and nobody's signing up for it. So you guys are throwing your money away. Sign up for it. It's really important to get those emergency alerts. And seek out the CERT program, so that way you guys can get the information and the education, how you can be prepared for natural gas outages, fires as well.
All right, thank you. Okay, this will be the last question for our sheriff's candidates. We're going to start with Sheriff Skiles. How might an influx of non-U.S. citizens be addressed in our area vis-a-vis the potential for illegal activity? And it doesn't indicate how big a problem this is or if it is a problem in this area, so maybe you can address that as well.
Fortunately, we live in a really good area and we don't have those issues at this point. I think that if we have any kind of issues like that, I know that we will just uphold the law, and we'll make sure that if people need to go to jail, they'll go to jail if they're being unlawful. If they're here and they're trying to get food or whatever, that's fine. I don't know how many facilities we actually have in Moscow and everything to help people, like some of the bigger cities and stuff who are actually running out of money from things I see on the news and stuff. But I know that we're helping people. I know, but as soon as laws are broke, then we take care of that. We put people in jail. That's what we do. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Chris?
From a state police standpoint, when I was a trooper, I dealt with it quite a bit. actually dealt with pulling over many vehicles that were full of illegals, some of which on the terror watch list, some of which who were wanted in other states. And here's the biggest problem with that. When you call the immigration service out of Spokane, you let them know what you have, they send you back. They say, let them go. Document them, cut them loose. So it's a really tough situation. Okay, and one of the things I want to stress is that I've had this question come to me just in my own neighborhood many times as a law enforcement officer. I think what's important to know is that, number one, the United States Constitution, the Idaho State Constitution, and the Idaho Code, Criminal Code, dictate what a sheriff is allowed to do. That is the golden rules, okay? We are not immigration. We are to document, notify, and monitor. Okay, that is really the basic. Okay, when it comes to those issues in the public, I think it comes to education. It needs to be said that, you know what, if you're worried about it, then maybe you should start taking some steps to make your home safer. Do some things that maybe will make you feel better. The thing is it's not going to stop. We're not gonna keep it from happening. We are a country of immigrants. Okay, that's the way it is. But until they're breaking the law enforcement officers aren't there to question them, harass them, or run them out of your county. Okay, we're there to keep the peace, maintain the laws, and do our jobs. And that means everybody gets treated the same. Doesn't matter whether you're an immigrant, you're without a visa, or you're a citizen. And that's just the way it is.
All right, thank you. James?
And I will agree with these two gentlemen. Our job is to enforce the law when the law is broken, and it doesn't matter if it's a U of I student or someone from another country. It's when they break the law that we're going to step in and we're going to deal with that issue. Until then, it's our job to provide service to those folks, just like we do to everybody else. So until the law is broken, we need to just continue to do what we do, and we need to monitor it, though, because if we start getting complaints of certain, just like we do up on campus, we get complaints that there's rowdy college kids partying and stuff. Well, we put people into those positions then, and we do plainclothes details then, and we actually start monitoring stuff to make sure that we're present to protect all of you.
All right, thank you. We actually have a couple of extra minutes, so I'm going to sort of break precedence and give you 1 minute each to answer this next one, which is sort of a dicey question. It could be answered yes or no if you want, but the question is, do you believe in separation of church and state, or in this case, church, state, or church and county government? So we'll start at the end there. Jason, I'm gonna go first in just 1 minute.
It's kind of a tough question to answer. As a person of faith, that helps me make a lot of my decisions because I have to live with those decisions every night when I go home. So my faith helps me in guiding those decisions. So as far as the traditional sense of separation of church and state was, if we remember back to the Catholic Church, they had their hands in every government. So they were making decisions for those communities. I'm not a firm believer of that, but my faith is going to help me dictate those decisions that I would make.
Okay, John?
I believe it is. I believe in separation of church and state. Everybody has their own belief, their own faith. It does, can be different religions, and I just don't think that, according to our Constitution, they talked about because of the persecution of religious people back then, they want to make that clear that there was that separation. So yes, I definitely believe in separation of church and state.
So yes, first off, the county commissioners, his job is in a sense to protect everybody or to be there for everybody, no matter what religion they have. So that that's what we need to do, focus on. But if we take a look at that phrase, separation of church and state, actually what we're looking at is the First Amendment of the Constitution that gives the right of everybody to worship their own way, in whatever religion. But the Establishment Clause of that says the federal government can't create or promote a religion. It's the 14th Amendment Due Process Clause that incorporates the Bill of Rights and that component into the state and local governments. So the county governments are bound by the Constitution, First Amendment, just as the federal government is. And that's where I'm at.
Great. Tony?
When you say the Pledge of Allegiance, we are one nation under God. So how can you separate God from this nation? You separate God from this nation, God will pass judgment on this nation. Whenever you pass a dollar bill, it's in God we trust. This country was founded on the Ten Commandments. That's our moral code. Thomas Jefferson once wrote, and I'm not sure where this is at, one of the legislative guys told me about this. He said you can take, the state cannot dictate religion, but religion can dictate to the state. Folks, if we don't have a moral code, we're screwed. And I believe that moral code is in our Creator. And that's written in, I can't remember where, in the Bill of Rights or somewhere. But we are under our Creator. So yes, I don't think you can separate church and state.
All right, thank you. James?
So am I a religious person? Yes. Do I believe that my morals and my values dictate some of how I act as a law enforcement officer? Yes. But what I also believe is that I serve all people. It doesn't matter what portion of that. And as a sheriff, we don't get the right to pick and choose who we serve and how we serve them. We have to serve them equally. So I would say that I'll serve you all equally and maintain that.
Chris?
Yeah, I thought a lot about this. I was a former history teacher, and I know what the Constitution says, and I know what the Declaration of Independence said as well. Okay. As far as law enforcement is concerned, law enforcement is blind to religion, race, creed, color, whatever it is. In the Bible, it says, "Give to Caesar what is Caesar's." Yes. Okay. Follow the law of the land. The law of the land right now says that there's a separation of church and state. Okay. Until that law or that mode of thinking is changed, law enforcement officers are bound to uphold the United States Constitution, the state of Idaho's Constitution, and the Idaho Code. When it comes to those things, it's unwavering from a sheriff's standpoint. You defend them because that's your job, 100%. And that's to defend every single one of you in whatever beliefs you have.
Thank you. Sheriff Skiles?
I believe that you uphold the law, and I've had a couple people come up to me and go, well, what about my religion? Or as long as you're lawful, and I'm not going to pick what your religion is, I feel that whatever's on the books right now is fine at this time, but I'm not against discussion on things. But I'm not against anybody's religion, so I would enforce the law according to what's on the books or whatever, but if it's an unlawful law that's made in the future or something like that, I may not enforce that when it comes to religion, because somebody asked me that too, and I'm about the people and our rights and the Constitution and a lot of what they said. Thank you.
All right, thank you. All right, that brings us to our final round, if you will. So each candidate has 1 minute for a concluding statement. And Tony, I think I'll start with you. And we'll go down the line this way and then down the line that way. Okay? All right, Tony, go ahead.
So first thing, I made a mistake when I first started to speak. I forgot to thank you guys, the League of Women Voters, for hosting this. My apologies. So thank you.
You're welcome.
On my brochures in the back, I list my business qualifications. I list my qualifications for city government, working in county government. when you add up the years of doing all that, it comes to 55, 60 years of working with people, doing budgets, fixing problems. And I found the best way to handle those situations is you build relationships. So building relationships with my constituents, building relationships with the other elected officials from the courthouse. It's how I will govern, is by building relationships. And I hope my experience, I can draw on that to build those relationships. So thank you. And again, please vote.
Mark?
Hope I can make it through this.
Do you want somebody else to go first? Catch your breath? Yeah, go ahead. John.
Well, thank you for coming out to these forums and being engaged in the democratic process and wanting to learn who we are and what we stand for. When I decided to run the second time, I thought of a discussion I had with my father, and he wasn't a public person at all. He says, not only do we as people have the right to run for public office, we have an obligation, because it's up to us to learn that being a public servant is a lot more important than being a servant to ourselves. And that's why I present myself here to you today. There's decisions that I make at the county that probably don't go exactly the way I as an individual would want, but I'm not here for me, I'm here for you. And I want to thank you guys for giving me the opportunity to serve as your commissioner the last years. It's been the greatest 20 months of my life, and I can't believe I would say that being a politician. But it's been great. The people I work with are wonderful, and everyone at that county has the county at heart.
Jason?
First of all, I want to thank the League of Women Voters for putting on this forum. I want to thank the attendees. I want to thank the other candidates for making the time to attend as well. Especially thank my wife for being supportive during this campaign. She handles all the things that I forget to do. But with all my experience working with accounting, doing budgeting, handling of checks for royalties to large trademark brands of $8 million, I'm used to handling large sums of money. And I'm hoping I can use that experience to serve the community. It shows with my face that I will give my blood to serve the community. And I hope to do that in November. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Mark? You okay now?
I think so.
All right.
So again, I want to thank the League of Women Voters for providing this opportunity, and Lauren for doing a great job of moderating. And also thank all of you for coming out this evening. These gatherings are critical for our democratic process, especially so candidates can hear your concerns. I started working back in April, visiting with people from the county departments and the other commissioners to try to learn what this job is all about. I now know there are many layers and issues that the commissioners deal with on a weekly basis, but it's become very clear to me that the work of the county is dependent on the great people in the departments, and keeping these departments properly funded and empowered to continue their work is a key function of the commission, so that the county services are there when we need them. I will listen to your concerns, and using problem-solving skills I developed in farming and research to find balanced and effective solutions. I sincerely ask for your vote in November. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Need a little more water. All right. James, want to go next?
First, thank you all for coming out tonight. Thank you to the League of Women Voters. Thank you for moderating. So there's a quote that says, every community deserves the type of criminal they will allow. That same community also deserves the type of law enforcement they demand. Over the last 29 years, I've spent my time serving in every capacity at the police department other than two. I was a patrolman, I was a corporal, sergeant, detective, I was a SWAT team member, and I also was a police administrator, lieutenant, captain, and chief. What that provides you is somebody that's well-rounded, somebody who knows every element of law enforcement, not just patrol or not just detectives. And you have to know all those things when you're the top leader, because when things really crisis do hit, and they will hit, you have to know how to handle those, you have to know how to manage those, and you need to know how to lead the team. And I will do that for you. I'll lead the team, and vote in November, please.
Thank you. Chris?
Okay. First, I apologize for not standing up every time because I'm a big person. It takes me a long time to get up and do that. So, thank you for having me. Thank you for listening. I do not have as much experience in law enforcement as Mr. Fry, but what I do have is a well-rounded life. I'm 55 years old. I've been a teacher. I've been a farmer. I've been a construction man. I've been a salesman, and I've been a law enforcement officer. And I've been a father, and I'm a grandfather of 6. Okay, so I know what people need with regards to their needs when it comes to law enforcement based on my experience. But I also know how to talk to them like a normal person. But I also know how to drop the hammer when I need to drop the hammer, because that's part of being a law enforcement officer. It's not the fun part, believe me. There's a lot of guys that love it, but it's not. As your sheriff, I can commit to you that I would be dedicated 100% to increasing community involvement in the rural areas, especially with regards to patrol standards, involvement in every ounce of what goes on inside those communities in order to develop relations so that we get the support we need when we need things. Thanks.
Thank you. Sheriff, you have the last word.
I like that. Except my wife will get the last word when we get on the truck. So, but thank you for the offer. I humbly am asking for your support to continue what I started in 2016. I got a wonderful team at the sheriff's office. We work hard. We want the community to be a better place for everybody. And I have a website, and I'll be back there for a little bit. I would just appreciate it, and humbly I'm asking for your continued support so we can just continue what we do. And come and get a sign if you want one. Thank you very much.
All right, please help me thank all of our candidates for taking their time and working on it. Thank you all for being here. So that closes our session, and will all of you be back there willing to answer questions? So there were some questions that we didn't get to, but those of you who wrote down questions, now is your opportunity to ask individually. Good night all.